I need to tell you about the moment I started praying with my son. Not because I found God, not because some priests convinced me, but because I was failing at the one thing that actually mattered. It was 2:47 a.m. on June 19th, 2018. I know the exact time because I was staring at my phone when it rang. I was lying in a sleeping bag on the factory floor at our Fremont plant in California. Around me, the Tesla Model 3 production line hummed and clanked. We were in what the media loved calling production hell. They weren't wrong. I'd been sleeping there for 3 weeks, 3 hours a night, maybe 4 if I was lucky. You know, my back hurt, my head hurt, everything hurt. But we had to hit our production targets or Tesla would die. It was that simple. 5,000 cars per week or bankruptcy. Those were the options. My phone lit up to darkness. Xavier's name on the screen. My heart stopped before my brain caught up. Kids don't call at 2:47 a.m. with good news. Xavier?
I sat up fast. The sleeping bag tangled around my legs. What's wrong? Are you okay?
Dad, his voice sounded small. Younger than 14. Are you there? Like really there? I could hear him breathing. That shaky kind of breathing when you're trying not to cry. I'm here, buddy. I'm right here. What happened? The factory noise felt too loud. Suddenly, I stood up and walked toward the emergency exit, pushing through the metal door into the parking lot. The California night air was cool, quiet. I pressed the phone harder against my ear. I couldn't sleep, Xavier said. I keep having this nightmare. Tell me about it. It's the same one every night. I'm standing in our house, but everyone's leaving. You, Mom, everyone. And I'm trying to call out, but no sound comes. I'm just disappearing, like I'm fading away while everyone walks past me. I leaned against the factory wall. The concrete was cold through my shirt. That sounds scary, I said. It felt stupid, weak. I solve impossible problems every day. I'm sending rockets to space. But finding the right words for my son? I had nothing. Dad, do you ever get scared about everything ending? The question hit me like a punch. Because yes, I was scared every single day. Scared Tesla would fail. Scared SpaceX would have another explosion. Scared I'd lose everything I'd built. But I never said it out loud. That wasn't how I worked. Everyone gets scared sometimes, I said carefully. But what do you do with it? Xavier's voice cracked. Where does it go? I looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, satellites I'd helped launch were orbiting Earth. I could explain orbital mechanics. I could explain rocket propulsion. But this, how do you explain fear to your child when you don't even know what to do with your own? I said honestly, I focus on the next problem, the next solution. Silence on the other end, long enough that I thought maybe we'd been disconnected. Xavier? Yeah, I'm here. Another pause. I've been trying something different. What's that? I've been talking out loud when I'm alone. Just saying what I'm feeling, what I'm scared of. Like someone's listening. It took me a second to understand what he meant. You mean praying? I guess. I don't know if anyone's actually there, but it helps. Having somewhere to put all the scary stuff instead of keeping it inside. I didn't know what to say. My son was praying. My son, who I'd raised on science books and logic, was praying. I should have felt concerned. Instead, I felt something else. Something that made my chest tight. I felt jealous, because he'd found something. Some way to process fear that didn't involve working 18-hour days and sleeping on factory floors. Some way to not feel alone. That's good, buddy, I managed. If it helps you, that's good. I should let you sleep, Xavier said. Sorry for calling so late. No, never apologize for calling me. Ever, okay? Okay? Yeah? We'll talk more soon. Tomorrow. Or the next day. We'll really talk. Sure, Dad. Love you. Love you. The call ended. I stood there in that parking lot, surrounded by 200 acres of factory, holding a phone that suddenly felt very heavy. My son was having nightmares about disappearing, or about being invisible. And where was I? Sleeping on a factory floor, fighting for a company while my kid fought his own battles alone. I looked back at the factory. Through the windows, I could see the production line, the robots, the workers, the cars moving down the assembly line. All of it mattered. Tesla mattered. The mission mattered. But my son had just called me at 2:47 a.m. because he was scared and lonely, and I didn't even know what to say to him. I walked back inside. The night shift supervisor, Marcus, looked up from his tablet. Everything okay, boss? Yeah, I said automatically. Then I stopped. No. Actually, no. I need to make a change to my schedule. Tuesday and Thursday evenings. Block them off. No meetings. Nothing. Marcus blinked. You want me to block off time on your calendar? Yes. For what? Family time. He stared at me like I just said I was quitting to become a monk. In 3 weeks of sleeping at the factory, I had never once blocked off time for anything except production meetings. You got it, Marcus said slowly, typing into his tablet. I climbed back into my sleeping bag, but I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about Xavier's question. Did you ever get scared about everything ending? Yes, all the time, but I'd never had anywhere to put that fear except into more work, more companies, more impossible goals. I'd built my whole life on never stopping, never slowing down, never admitting I didn't have all the answers. My son was having nightmares about disappearing, and I realized, lying there on that cold factory floor, that I didn't actually know him anymore. Not really. I knew his schedule, I knew his grades, but I didn't know what scared him, what he dreamed about, what he needed from me beyond money and occasional advice. I thought about what he'd said, about talking out loud, putting the fear somewhere instead of keeping it inside. It sounded ridiculous. I'm an engineer. I think in equations and data, prayer is for people who can't solve their own problems. But what if that was exactly wrong? What if the smartest people were the ones who knew when they needed help, when they needed to stop pretending they had everything figured out? At 4:30 a.m., I gave up on sleep. I walked back outside to my car and drove the 30 minutes to Palo Alto, to the house where I wasn't currently living because I was too busy saving Tesla. The sun was just starting to rise over the hills. I sat in the driveway and did something I hadn't done since I was maybe 10 years old, sitting in church in Pretoria with my mother. I closed my eyes and I spoke out loud to the empty car. I don't know if anyone's listening. I don't even know if I believe anyone is. But my son is hurting and I don't know how to help him. I don't know how to be what he needs. And I'm scared that by the time I figure it out, it'll be too late. Nothing happened. No voice from heaven. No sudden clarity. Just me sitting in a car, talking to nobody. But something did shift. Just slightly. Like admitting the problem out loud made it real in a way. Thinking about it never did. I pulled out my phone and texted Xavier, "Can we have dinner tomorrow? Just us. Your choice where?" 3 dots appeared immediately. He was awake too. Really? Really? 6 p.m. Anywhere you want. Bill's Coffee on University, we could just talk. Perfect.
See you there.
I sat there watching the sunrise paint the sky orange and pink. In 12 hours, I had 3 board meetings, 2 press calls, and a critical design review for Starship. I'd probably get 2 hours of sleep total before that dinner. But for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I was about to do something that actually mattered. I didn't know it yet, but that dinner would change everything. Not just for Xavier, for me. Those 2 words kept echoing in my head as I drove back to the factory that morning. The sunrise was beautiful, but I barely saw it. I was thinking about prayer, about my son, about how I'd become someone who knew how to land rockets but didn't know how to listen. I wasn't always like this. When I was a kid in Pretoria, South Africa, my mom used to take me to church sometimes. Not every week. Maybe Musk wasn't the type to force religion on anyone, but she thought it was good for us to see different things, experience different ideas. I remember sitting in this hard wooden pews in the 1970s, maybe 7 or 8 years old. The church smelled like old books and furniture polish. The preacher would talk about faith and miracles and God's plan, and I'd sit there with a science book hidden on my lap, reading about stars and planets and physics. Even then, I was more interested in how things worked than why they existed. You won't pay attention, my mom would whisper, catching me reading. I am paying attention. I'd whisper back, he's talking about the universe. I'm learning about the universe. Same thing. She'd smile and shake her head. My mom understood me, even when I didn't make sense to anyone else. The truth is, I stopped believing in prayer around the same time I started really understanding math. Maybe I was 10. I realized that you could predict things, calculate things. If you knew the right equations, you could figure out exactly how fast something would fall or how much force you needed to move something. Prayer seemed like hoping someone else would solve your problems. Math was solving them yourself. I got bullied a lot as a kid, really bad. There was this one time, I was 12 and a group of boys threw me down a concrete staircase at school. I ended up in the hospital and my nose was broken. I couldn't breathe right for weeks. I remember my mom sitting by my hospital bed. She was crying, which I hated seeing. My mom was strong. Seeing her cry made everything feel worse. Did you pray for me? I asked her.
Of course I did.
Did it work? She looked at me with sad eyes. You're alive. You're here. That's what matters. But I was thinking the prayers didn't stop him from pushing me. Prayers didn't make my nose not broken. Prayers didn't change anything. What changed things was getting bigger, stronger, smarter, working harder than everyone else. That's what I learned. Don't wait for help. Don't hope things get better. Make them better yourself. By the time I was 14, I'd stopped going to church completely. I was reading about quantum mechanics and rocket science. I was planning my escape from South Africa, from bullies, from everything that held me back. I came to America, went to Penn, then Stanford for 2 days before I left to start Zip2, then PayPal, then SpaceX, then Tesla. Work became my religion. Every Sunday that other people spent in church, I spent in meetings, planning, building, solving problems. I had mission: make humanity multiplanetary, save the world from climate change, make the future worth being excited about. Those weren't small goals. They required everything, every hour, every ounce of energy, every piece of my soul. I got married, had kids, got divorced, married again, more kids, divorced again. The whole time I was working, always working, building SpaceX, saving Tesla from bankruptcy 3 different times, starting new companies, Neuralink, the Boring Company. People ask me, how do you do it all? The answer was simple. I didn't do anything else. No hobbies, no real vacations, no sitting still. I believed in Mars before I believed in miracles. And here's what nobody tells you about being the guy with all the answers. It's lonely. Really, really lonely. When you're the one everyone looks to for solutions, you can't admit when you don't know what to do. You can't show weakness. You can't say, I'm scared, or I'm lost, or I don't know if this will work. You just keep moving forward. Solve the next problem, then the next, then the next. I had 5 kids, then 6, then more, and I loved them. Okay, I really did. But that love and presence aren't the same thing. I was always somewhere else, mentally if not physically, thinking about the next product launch, the next funding round, the next crisis to prevent. My kids would text me and I'd respond between meetings. They'd visit and I'd be checking my phone for production numbers. I was there, but I wasn't really there. And I told myself it was okay because I was building something important. I was changing the world. That had to count for something, right? But after that phone call with Xavier, after he told me about his nightmares, something cracked inside me. I parked at the factory and sat in my car for 10 minutes. Just sat there. My hands were shaking. I didn't know why. Actually, that's a lie. I knew exactly why. I was terrified. Not about Tesla, not about SpaceX. I'd faced bankruptcy, exploding rockets, media attacks, short sellers trying to destroy my companies. I'd handled all of it. But my son was hurting and I didn't know how to fix it. There was no equation for this, no engineering solution, no amount of work that would make this better. For the first time in decades, I was facing a problem I couldn't solve by myself. I thought about what Xavier said about talking out loud, putting his fears somewhere instead of keeping them inside. Maybe that's what I'd been missing all these years. I kept everything inside, built walls around myself, became this person who never stopped, never slowed down, never admitted he needed anything. I built the armor so thick that nobody could hurt me. But that armor also meant, nobody could really reach me. Not my wives, not my kids, nobody. I pulled out my phone and looked at the text exchange with Xavier. There was coffee on university, just a simple dinner, just talking. But my stomach was twisting with nervousness, like I was about to present to the board. Because what if I couldn't do it? What if I sat down with my son and still didn't know what to say? What if 18-hour work days and sleeping on factory floors had turned me into someone who'd forgotten how to just be a dad? I got out of the car and walked back into the factory. The morning shift was starting. People were everywhere, moving with purpose. The Model 3 line was running. We were getting closer to our targets. But for the first time in 3 weeks of sleeping here, it didn't feel like the most important thing in the world. My phone buzzed. Another text from Xavier. Thanks for making time, Dad. Really? I stared at that message. Thanks for making time. Like spending time with his own father was some special favor. Like it wasn't the most basic thing a dad should do. What did I become? A type back always. Anytime. I mean that. Then I added, I love you, I'm sorry I haven't shown it enough lately. The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, love you too. See you tonight. I stood there on that factory floor, surrounded by millions of dollars of equipment, hundreds of employees, all this innovation and technology, and none of it mattered as much as getting that dinner right. Marcus walked over with his tablet. Boss, the production numbers from overnight. Later I said, right now I need to figure out how to talk to my son. Marcus blinked. Want to Talk about it? No. Yes. I don't know. I rubbed my face. Have you ever felt like you're winning at everything except the things that actually matter? He was quiet for a moment. Every parent feels that way sometimes. How do you deal with it? Honestly, I pray about it. Talk to my wife. Try to be present when I'm home instead of thinking about work. There was that word again. Pray. Does it help? I asked. Can't hurt, right? I nodded slowly. Yeah, can't hurt. But standing there, I realized something. It wasn't about whether prayer worked. It wasn't about whether some divine power was listening. It was about admitting I needed help. Admitting I didn't have all the answers. Admitting that maybe, just maybe, the smartest thing I could do was stop trying to solve everything alone. My son had figured that out at 4. It took me until 47. Better late than never, I guess. But I was about to learn that late has consequences. The week after that 2:47 a.m. phone call was one of the worst of my life. And that's saying something. Because I've had rockets explode, companies almost go bankrupt, and the entire internet attacking me on a regular Tuesday. This was different. This was personal. On Monday, June 20th, we had a critical production meeting at Tesla. We were so close to hitting 5,000 Model 3s per week. So close. But the paint shop was backing up. We had quality issues. Every problem felt like it could kill the company. I sat in that meeting and all I could think about was Xavier's voice. Do you ever get scared about everything ending? Elon, what do you think? Someone was asking me a question about the paint process. I had no idea what they'd said. Sorry, can you repeat that? Everyone stared. I never asked people to repeat things. I was always 3 steps ahead, already solving the next problem before they finished explaining the current one. My assistant Sarah gave me a concerned look. She'd been with me for 6 years. She knew something was off. We made it through the meeting. Barely. I approved some solutions, pushed back on others. But my mind was somewhere else. It was at that coffee shop in Palo Alto, where I'd be sitting with my son in 5 days. What would I even say to him? Tuesday morning, I tried calling Xavier. It went to voicemail. I texted, just wanted to hear your voice. Call when you can. 3 hours later. Sorry, Dad. At school. Call you tonight? At that, night, I was in another meeting. Yeah, and then another. By the time I was free, it was 11 p.m. Too late to call a 14-year-old. I texted instead, tomorrow for sure. Miss you. No response. Wednesday was worse. The media was destroying us. Articles everywhere about how Tesla was failing, how I was losing my mind, how we'd never hit our production targets. Short sellers were making billions, betting against us. My Twitter feed was full of people celebrating our potential bankruptcy. They wanted me to fail, they wanted Tesla to die. And you know what? Part of me didn't even care anymore. I kept thinking about what Xavier said, about his nightmare, about everyone leaving while you disappeared, about feeling invisible.
I'd made my son feel invisible.
That hurt more than any media attack ever could. The Thursday I had to fly to our SpaceX facility in Hawthorne for a Falcon 9 launch review. The rocket was beautiful, 70 meters tall, loaded with satellites, ready to prove reusable rockets for the future. The engineering team was walking me through the final checks. Fuel systems, guidance, computers, landing legs. Everything had to be perfect. We'd go for lunch on Saturday, the lead engineer Miguel said. All systems nominal. Nominal. Everything by the numbers. Everything working exactly as designed. I wish people were like rockets. Clear instructions. Predictable outcomes. Do A, get B. Good work, I told the team. Really good work. I walked out into the massive SpaceX hangar. It was midnight. The place was empty except for security guards. I stood there, looking up at another Falcon 9 being assembled. The rocket seemed to glow under the work lights. I had built this, started SpaceX with my own money after PayPal sold. Everyone said I was crazy. Rockets are too hard, they said. You'll lose everything. But I didn't lose everything. We landed rockets. We sent cargo to the International Space Station. We were changing space travel forever. So why couldn't I figure out how to talk to my own kid? I pulled out my phone. Still no response from Xavier since yesterday. I typed another message. Hey buddy, still on for tomorrow at 6. I watched the screen. No 3 dots. No response. My hands started shaking. What if he changed his mind? What if he realized I wasn't worth the effort? What if I'd already lost him? I sat down on the hangar floor right there in the middle of this massive facility, surrounded by rockets and dreams and everything I'd built, and I felt completely alone. The security guard walked by, saw me sitting there. You okay, Mr. Musk? Yeah, I said automatically. But I wasn't okay. I was the opposite of okay. I thought about what Xavier said, about talking out loud, about prayer. about putting the fear somewhere instead of keeping it inside. The hangar was empty. Just me and the rockets. I closed my eyes. I don't know if anyone's listening. I said quietly, I still don't really believe anyone is, but I need help. Not with rockets, not with cars, not with any of the things I'm supposed to be good at. My voice cracked. I was glad nobody was around to hear it. I need help being a father. I'm failing at it. I can build spaceships, but I can't reach my own child. And I'm terrified that by the time I figure this out, it would be too late. That he'll be grown and gone, and I'll have missed everything that mattered. I sat there in the silence. A tear ran down my face, then another. I couldn't remember the last time I'd cried. Maybe when my first son, Nevada, died. That was 2002. 16 years ago. I'd forgotten how to cry, how to admit I was breaking. But sitting there on that cold concrete floor, surrounded by rockets that could reach orbit, I finally admitted the truth. I was lost, and I couldn't find my way alone. My phone buzzed. I grabbed it so fast I almost dropped it. Xavier? Yes, 6 p.m. tomorrow. Bill's coffee. I'll be there, Dad. And then another message. Can we talk tomorrow? It's important. Something I need to tell you. My heart stopped. Something you need to tell me and important. Every parent knows that feeling. When your kid says, we need to talk, and you imagine every terrible possibility. Drugs, trouble at school, bullying, depression, 1,000 awful scenarios running through your mind. I'd type back with shaking hands. Of course, anything. I'm here for whatever you need. Thanks, see you tomorrow. I sat there staring at that message. Something I need to tell you. What could it be? Xavier's grades were good. He wasn't in trouble that I knew of. But those nightmares, that feeling of disappearing, what was my son going through? And why didn't I already know? I stood up slowly. My back hurt from sitting on the floor. Everything hurt, actually. A few weeks of sleeping at the factory, running between companies, barely eating real food. My body was shutting down. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing I'd been so focused on saving my companies that I'd stopped seeing my own son. I walked back to my car and drove to the Fremont factory. It was 1 a.m. The night shift was in full production. The robots moved in perfect synchronization. The Model 3s rolled down the line, one after another. My phone rang. It was Gwynne Shotwell, the president of SpaceX. She ran the company's daily operations while I focused on the big picture and engineering. Elon, sorry to call so late. Miguel said you seemed off tonight. Everything okay? Wayne was one of the few people who could ask me that question directly. Family stuff, I said. Want to talk about it? Not really, but thank you. Okay. But Elon, whatever's going on, the rockets can wait. We've got this. Take care of yourself. Take care of your kids. After we hung up, I sat in my car in the factory parking lot. Take care of your kids. Such simple advice. Why was it so hard to follow? I looked at Xavier's message again. Something I need to tell you. I realized I was more nervous about that coffee shop conversation than I'd been about any rocket launch, any earnings call, any media interview. Because those things I knew how to handle. I had experience, data, plans. But this, sitting across from my son and being the father he needed, I had no idea what I was doing. I pulled out my phone one more time, and I did something that felt completely foreign. I prayed. Really prayed. Not just saying words into empty air, but actually asking for help. Please, I whispered. I don't care if you're God or the universe or just my own subconscious. But please give me the right words tomorrow. Help me show up for my son the way he needs. Help me listen instead of trying to fix everything. Help me be present. Nothing magical happened. No voice from heaven. No sudden clarity. But something did shift inside me. Just a little. Like admitting I needed help was the first step toward actually getting it. Tomorrow was Friday. Tomorrow I'd see Xavier. Tomorrow I'd find out what he needed to tell me. And tomorrow, somehow, I had to be the father he deserved. Not the CEO. Not the engineer. Not the guy with all the answers. Just dad. I wasn't sure I knew how to be just dad anymore. Friday, June 22nd, 2018. The longest day of my life. I woke up at 5 a.m. on the factory floor. My neck was stiff. My back hurt. But none of that mattered. I had 13 hours until I'd see Xavier. I showered in the factory bathroom, put on a clean shirt I kept in my office, and tried to focus on work. We had production meetings. Quality control issues, a problem with the battery supplier. But my mind kept jumping forward. 6 p.m., Phil's Coffee, University Avenue in Palo Alto. Sarah, my assistant, caught me staring out the window around noon. Boss, you've been looking at that spreadsheet for 20 minutes without scrolling. Sorry, I'm distracted. I can see that. What time's your meeting with Xavier? I looked at her surprised. How did you know? You blocked off your entire evening. You never do that. And you keep checking your phone every 5 minutes. She smiled. It's okay to be nervous about seeing your kid. Is it that obvious? Only to people who know you. She paused. For what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. The afternoon crawled by. Every minute felt like an hour. Finally, at 5:30 p.m., I got in my car and drove to Palo Alto. The traffic on 21 was terrible, like always. I spent 40 minutes going 15 miles, drumming my fingers on the steering wheel. I arrived at 5:55 p.m., 5 minutes early. I parked and sat in my car trying to calm down. This was ridiculous. I'd given presentations to thousands of people. I'd negotiated billion-dollar deals. I defended Tesla against short sellers on live TV. But sitting in a coffee shop with my 14-year-old son, my heart was racing. So exactly 6 p.m. I walked into Phil's Coffee. The place smelled like coffee and mint. It was crowded with Stanford students on laptops and people having after-work meetings. I found a small table in the corner, away from everyone else. I ordered a coffee I didn't really want, just to have something to do with my hands. At 6 or 7 p.m., Xavier walked in. He had grown since I'd seen him 2 weeks ago. Or maybe I just hadn't noticed before. He was almost as tall as me now. His hair was longer, he was wearing a hoodie and jeans, carrying a backpack. He looked nervous too. That made me feel slightly better. Hey, Dad. He sat down across from me. Hey, buddy, want something to drink? Sure. Iced coffee, I guess. I went to the counter and ordered. When I came back, Xavier was staring at his phone, but he put it away when he saw me. Thanks, he said when I handed him the coffee.
We sat there. The silence felt heavy. I'd flown across the country for meetings and jumped right into conversations about million-dollar decisions. But with my own son, I didn't know where to start.
How's school? I finally asked. Fine. Finals done? Yeah. Did okay. More silence. This was going terribly. Xavier was tracing patterns on the table with his finger, not looking at me. Xavier, I said softly. I'm sorry. He looked up. For what? For not being here? For working all the time? For making you feel like you had to schedule an appointment just to talk to your dad? His eyes got a little shiny. It's okay. I know you're busy. That's not an excuse. You're my son. You should never have to wait in line behind a meeting or a product launch. Xavier bit his lip. Do you mean that? Or are you just saying it? The question hurt, but it was fair. I mean it. I'm gonna do better. I want to do better. I need you to help me figure out how. He took a sip of his coffee. His hands were shaking slightly. Can I tell you something without you trying to fix it? He asked. That stopped me, because my whole life was about fixing things. Then I nodded. Okay, I'll just listen. Xavier took a deep breath. I feel invisible sometimes, like I'm right there, but nobody really sees me. Not the real me. They see what they want to see, or what they expect to see, but not who I actually am. I wanted to jump in to say, I see you, but I promise to just listen. And those nightmares I told you about, they're not really about everyone leaving. They're about me disappearing because I'm hiding, because I'm scared to show people who I really am. My chest felt tight. Why are you scared? Because what if people don't like who I really am? What if I show you the real me, and you're disappointed? Xavier, I could never be disappointed in you. You say that now? He was crying a little, tears running down his face that he kept wiping away. But you don't know yet. Know what? He shook his head. Not yet. I'm not ready yet. I reached across the table and put my hand on his. Whatever it is, whenever you're ready, I'm here. And nothing you tell me will make me love you less. Nothing. Promise? I promise. We sat there for a minute. The coffee shop noise faded into the background. It was just us. You said you've been praying, I said. Does it help? Xavier nodded. Yeah. It's like, I don't know if anyone's actually listening, but saying things out loud makes them real, you know? Makes them less scary. Can you teach me? He looked surprised. You want to pray, you? I want to try with you, if that's okay. Right now, if you want. Xavier looked around. Here? In the coffee shop? We don't have to close our eyes or fold our hands or anything. We can just talk out loud, like we're putting our fears somewhere safe. He thought about it. Okay, but you go first. My throat felt tight. This was harder than any speech I'd ever given. Okay. I closed my eyes, even though Xavier said we didn't have to. It felt right. I don't know who I'm talking to. Maybe nobody. But I'm grateful for this moment, for my son trusting me enough to be here. And I'm scared that I've messed up so badly that I can't fix it. But I want to try. I want to be the father he deserves. I opened my eyes. Xavier was looking at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. Your turn, I said.
And he closed his eyes. Thank you for my dad being here, for him trying. And please help us figure this out. Help me be brave enough to tell him the truth. Help him understand when I do.
We sat there quietly. Something had shifted. The wall between us felt a little bit thinner. That wasn't so bad, Xavier said. No, it wasn't. Can we do this again? The prayer thing? Anytime you want. Tuesday, he asked. And Thursday? Like every week? Every Tuesday and Thursday, I'll be there. Even with everything going on at Tesla? Especially with everything going on at Tesla. I squeezed his hand. You're more important than production numbers. Xavier smiled. A real smile. The first one I'd seen all night. We stayed for another hour. We talked about school, about his friends, about this book series he was reading. Normal stuff. Easy stuff. The kind of conversation I've been too busy to have for months. When we finally left, Xavier hugged me in the parking lot. A real hug, not the quick side hug we usually did. Thanks, Dad. Oh, what? For showing up, for real this time. I watched him get into his mom's car. She was picking him up. I waved at her. She waved back, looking surprised to see me. As they drove away, I stood there in the parking lot. The sun was setting over Palo Alto. The sky was turning orange and pink. My phone buzzed with emails. Tesla issues. SpaceX updates. 1,000 things demanding my attention. But for the first time in forever, none of them felt urgent. I just spent 2 hours with my son, really with him. Present, listening, not thinking about the next meeting or the next problem. And it felt better than closing any business deal ever had. I got in my car and sat there for a minute, and I did something that still felt strange and new. I prayed, out loud, in my empty car.
Thank you.
For that conversation, for my son giving me another chance. And please, give me the wisdom to keep showing up, to keep listening, to be what he needs. A text came through from Xavier. There's more I need to tell you, but not today. I needed to know you'd do this first, that you'd really be here. I stared at that message. Whatever Xavier needed to tell me, it was big, important, maybe scary. But now I knew whatever it was, we'd face it together. I text back, whenever you're ready, I'm here. And we'll keep praying together. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I promise. 3 dots appeared. Then I love you, Dad.
I love you too, buddy.
So much. I started the car and drove back toward the factory. But something had changed in me, something fundamental. I still had companies to run, rockets to launch, cars to build. But now I had something more important, a connection with my son, a ritual, a promise. Every Tuesday and Thursday, prayer and presence. It wasn't about religion. It was about showing up, about creating space for honesty, about building trust. I didn't know it yet, but those Tuesday and Thursday evenings were about to change both of our lives. Xavier was building up the courage to tell me his truth, and I was learning how to be the kind of father who could handle it. The first Tuesday came 4 days later. June 20th, I was in back-to-back meetings all day at Tesla. We were so close to hitting our production target, 5,000 Model 3s per week. If we hit it, Tesla would survive. If we missed it, the short sellers would win. The company would probably die. But at 7:30 p.m., I stood up in the middle of a production meeting. I have to go, I said. Marcus, the night shift supervisor, looked confused. We're not done reviewing the quality metrics. I know. Handle it. I trust you. Everyone stared. In 3 years, I'd never left a production meeting early. Never. Sarah, my assistant, was standing by the door. She smiled and gave me a small nod. I drove to Palo Alto. David had asked if we could do our prayer time at my house. Well, at the house where I used to live before I started sleeping at the factory. It felt strange walking in, like visiting a museum of my old life. Xavier was already there, sitting on the couch. He'd let himself in with his key. Hey, Dad. Hey, buddy. You hungry? Want to order pizza? Sure. We ordered from his favorite place, Pizza My Heart, on Ramona Street. While we waited, we sat in the living room. It felt awkward at first. What do you talk about before you pray together? How was your day? I asked. Okay. And I with some friends played video games.
What game?
Fortnite. You probably don't know it. I've heard of it. You any good? Xavier smiled. Pretty good. Better than you'd be. Well, probably true. I'm terrible at video games. The pizza arrived. We ate it sitting on the floor in the living room, like we used to when Xavier was little, before everything got complicated, before I got too busy. You remember when we used to do this every Friday? Xavier said. I did. Pizza and bad movies. They weren't bad movies, they were classics. Xavier, we watched Spy Kids 3 like 8 times. Exactly. A classic. He was laughing now. It was good to hear. After we ate, we sat on the couch. The house was quiet. Outside, I could hear cars driving by on the street, normal life happening while we sat inside this bubble. So, how do we do this? I asked. The prayer thing? However feels right. There's no rules. Okay? I close my eyes. I'm grateful for this time with my son, for pizza and conversation, and I'm asking for patience at work, with myself, with everything. Help me remember what matters. I opened my eyes. Xavier was watching me. That was good, Dad. Your turn. He closed his eyes. His voice was quiet. I want to thank you for this, for my dad keeping his promise, and help me find the courage for what I need to do, what I need to say, soon. There it was again, that hint of something bigger coming, something Xavier was working up to telling me. But I didn't push. I was learning sometimes the best thing you can do is wait. Be patient. Let people come to you when they're ready. We sat there for a while, not talking, just being together. It felt strange at first. I'm not good at sitting still. My brain always wants to be working on the next problem. But Xavier seemed comfortable with the silence, so I try to be too. Dad, he said after a while. Yeah, thank you for doing this. I know it's weird for you. It's not weird. Well, okay, it's a little weird, but good weird. You really don't mind? Praying? Honestly, I'm still not sure I believe anyone's listening. But I like this. Us talking. Being honest about what we're feeling. That part feels right. Xavier nodded. That's all it has to be. We talked for another hour. About nothing important. About his summer plans. About a girl at school he maybe liked. About whether Mars would really happen in our lifetime. Normal dad and son stuff. The kind of stuff I'd been too busy for. At 10 p.m., his mom came to pick him up. Same time Thursday. Xavier asked at the door, I'll be here. Even if there's a crisis at work, even then. He hugged me. See you Thursday. Thursday came, and then the next Tuesday, then another Thursday. Through the end of June and into July, we kept our schedule every Tuesday and Thursday, 8 p.m., sometimes at my house. Sometimes we'd meet at a park or get food somewhere. The location didn't matter. What mattered was showing up. And I did. I showed up every single time, even on July 1st when we finally hit our production target. 5,000 Model 3s in 1 week. Tesla had survived. The short sellers were wrong. The company was saved. My phone exploded with messages. The board wanted to celebrate. The team wanted to party. Media wanted interviews. But it was Thursday, 8 p.m., and I was sitting in a park in Palo Alto with my son eating tacos and talking about his upcoming trip to visit his grandma. Dad, you don't have to be here, Xavier said. I know this is a huge day for Tesla. I'm exactly where I need to be. And I meant it. The Tesla victory felt good, but this felt better. The prayer ritual changed over those weeks. We got more comfortable with it. Sometimes we'd close our eyes. Sometimes we wouldn't. Sometimes we'd say a lot. Sometimes just a little. One Thursday in mid-July, Xavier's prayer was just, help me be brave. That was it. 3 words. I wanted to ask what he needed to be brave for, but I was learning to wait. My prayers changed too. At first, I'd pray about work stuff, about Tesla hitting targets or SpaceX launches going well, but slowly my prayers got simpler, more honest. Help me be present. Help me listen better. Thank you for this time. I started praying other times too. Not just with Xavier, sometimes in my car before a meeting, sometimes at night before sleep, just a few words, in my thoughts somewhere outside my head. It didn't feel religious, it felt practical, like a mental reset, but people at work noticed I was different. At a Tesla meeting in late July, I actually listened to someone's full idea before responding. Usually I'd interrupt halfway through because I'd already figured out the solution. That's a good point, I said. Let's explore that more. Gwen, calling in from SpaceX, actually laughed. Who are you and what did you do with Elon? What do you mean? You just let someone finish a thought. You never do that. She was right. I'd always been impatient. My brain moved fast. If I could see where someone was going, why wait for them to get there? But Xavier had taught me something. Sometimes the journey matters more than the destination. Sometimes people need to say things in their own time, their own way. I started doing prayer time with my other kids too. It's different with each one. With Griffin, Xavier's twin brother, was quieter. We'd pray about school and friends, simple stuff. He seemed happy just having the time together. With the younger kids, Kai, Saxon, and Damien, was sillier. They'd pray for their favorite toys or for ice cream. I'd pray that they'd always feel loved, that they'd know their dad was there. It wasn't perfect. I still worked too much. I still got distracted by my phone during conversations. I still messed up constantly. but I was trying, really trying, and that was new. On Thursday, August 2nd, something happened. Xavier and I were at Phil's Coffee again. Same table where we'd first prayed together. We just finished our pizza, about to do our prayer time. Xavier looked nervous, more nervous than usual. Dad, can I tell you something first? Before we pray? My heart started racing. This was it. Whatever he'd been building up to.
Of course.
Anything. He took a deep breath, then another. His hands were shaking. Actually, not tonight. I'm not ready. Part of me felt relieved. Part of me felt frustrated. But I pushed both feelings down. That's okay. Whenever you're ready. You're not mad? Why would I be mad? Because I keep saying I have something to tell you, and I don't. I reached across and squeezed his hand. Xavier, listen to me. You get to decide when you're ready. Not me. Not anyone else. You. And I'll wait as long as it takes. His eyes filled with tears. What if you hate me when I tell you? That's impossible. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because I love you. Not for what you do or what you say or any specific thing. I love you because you're my son. Nothing can change that. Xavier was crying now. Promise? I promise. On everything. On Tesla. On SpaceX. On Mars itself. I promise. We prayed together that night, but Xavier's prayer was different. Thank you for my dad. For him waiting. For him loving me, even when he doesn't understand everything. And help me be brave enough. Soon. Really soon. Driving home that night, I had a feeling something big was coming. Xavier was going to tell me something that scared him. Something important. And I had no idea what it was. But for the first time in my life, I felt ready to just listen. To be present. To not try to fix everything. Whatever Xavier needed to tell me, we'd handle it together. That's what these weeks of prayer had taught me. I didn't have to have all the answers. I just had to show up. Tuesday, Thursday, 8 p.m. Every single time. I was showing up, and slowly that was changing everything. October 23rd, 2018, 4 months after that first prayer together, I was at the Fremont factory when my phone buzzed. A text from Xavier, tomorrow. I'm ready. I stared at that message for a long time. My hands were shaking. This was it. Whatever Xavier had been working up to for months. Whatever made him so scared. Whatever he thought might make me hate him. Tomorrow was Thursday. Our regular prayer night. I texted back, I'll be there. Same place. Phil's Coffee. 6 p.m. Just us.
I love you. I love you too, Dad.
I couldn't sleep that night. I was back to sleeping at home now, not at the factory. We'd hit our production targets. Tesla was stable, but I laid awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. What could Xavier possibly tell me that he thought would make me hate him? My mind went through every possibility. Was he in trouble? Sick? Had something happen to him? By 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep. I got up and sat on my back porch. The California night was cool and quiet. I prayed, out loud, to the empty darkness. I don't know what tomorrow brings, but help me be the father Xavier needs. Help me listen with love. Help me be strong enough to handle whatever he tells me. The stars were bright. Somewhere up there, satellites I'd helped launch were orbiting. The universe was so big. And yet this moment, this conversation with my 14-year-old son, felt like the most important thing in it. Thursday, October 20th. The day moved in slow motion. Every meeting felt endless. Every email took forever to answer. I kept checking my phone, checking the time. Sarah noticed, she always noticed. Big night, she asked around 3 p.m. Xavier's gonna tell me something important. You nervous? Terrified. She smiled gently. You'll be fine. You've been showing up for him. That's what matters. At 5 p.m., I left the office way earlier than I needed to, but I couldn't sit still anymore. I drove to Palo Alto, parked near the coffee shop, sat in my car for 30 minutes, just breathing. At exactly 6 p.m., I walked into Phil's Coffee. Xavier was already there, same corner table. He looked pale, nervous. His leg was bouncing under the table. Hey, buddy. I sat down across from him. Hi, Dad. Want something to drink? No, I'm okay. Well, I'm not okay, but I don't want coffee. I sat down. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Whatever it is, I said, we'll figure it out together. Okay? Xavier nodded. He wasn't looking at me. His eyes were fixed on the table. Can we pray first? He asked quietly. Of course. We both closed our eyes. I went first. I'm grateful for this moment, for my son's courage. Whatever he needs to tell me, I'm ready to listen with love. Help me be the father he deserves. Xavier's turn. His voice was shaking. Please give me strength. Help my dad understand. Help him still love me. Please. We opened our eyes. Xavier had tears running down his face. Dad, I need to tell you something. And I'm so scared. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. He took a deep breath. Then another. His hands were gripping the edge of the table so tight his knuckles were white. You know those nightmares I told you about? About, disappearing? I remember. They weren't really about disappearing. They were about not being seen. About everyone looking at me but seeing someone else. Someone who isn't real. I stayed quiet, waiting. Dad, his voice cracked. I don't know how to say this. Just say it. However it comes out. I'm listening. Xavier looked up at me. His eyes were red from crying. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not your son. I mean, I am, but not in the way you think. I'm your daughter. The words hung in the air between us. I felt like the world had tilted sideways, like gravity had shifted. Xavier kept talking, words tumbling out fast now. I know this doesn't make sense. I know it's confusing, but I've felt this way my whole life. Like everyone sees a boy, but that's not who I am inside. I'm a girl. I've always been a girl, and pretending to be someone else is killing me. That's why I felt like I was disappearing, because the real me was hidden. My brain was trying to process, to understand this wasn't what I'd expected. I'd prepared for bad news, for problems I could solve. This was something completely different. Xavier was still talking, crying harder now. I know you probably hate me now. I know this ruins everything. I know you wanted sons and I'm letting you down. But I can't keep pretending. I can't keep disappearing. I need to be me, even if that means losing you. Stop, I said quietly. Xavier stopped talking. He looked terrified. I reached across the table and took both of his hands in mine. First of all, you're not losing me. Ever. Do you understand? Never. But let me finish. Second, I don't hate you. I could never hate you. I'm trying to understand. I'm not trying everything yet. But that's okay. We'll figure it out together. You're not mad? I'm not mad. Honestly, I'm overwhelmed. This is a lot to process. But, Xavier, I paused. Is Xavier still the right name? Here's tears. No. I want to be Vivian. I've wanted to be Vivian for years. Okay. Vivian. The name felt strange in my mouth. But I said it. Vivian, I need you to know something. These past 4 months, praying together, spending time together, do you know why I did all that? She shook her head. Because I needed to prove to you that, I could change. That I could show up. That I could put you first. My own eyes were getting wet now. You were testing me, weren't you? To see if I'd really be there. Vivian nodded. I needed to know you could handle this. That you wouldn't just disappear when things got hard. That prayer time, it wasn't really about praying. It was about seeing if you'd keep your promise. If you'd really show up for me. And did I? Every single time. You showed up every single time. We sat there, holding hands across the table in that crowded coffee shop. People were ordering drinks around us. Life was happening normally. But our world had just completely shifted. I have so many questions I said about how you know, about what this means, about what happens next. But right now, the only thing that matters is this. I love you, not because you're my son or my daughter. I love you because you're you. And whoever you are, wherever you need to be, I'm with you. Vivian was sobbing now. Really? Really. I'm not saying I understand everything. I'm not saying this isn't confusing for me, but that's my problem to work through, not yours. Your job is to be yourself. My job is to love you and support you. Even though this is weird for you, even though we'll figure it out together, one day at a time. Vivian came around the table and hugged me, a real hug. The kind where you hold on tight because you're afraid to let go. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for not leaving. I told you, I'm not going anywhere. We stayed like that for a while. My daughter crying into my shoulder while I held her. In that moment, all the confusion and questions faded away. There was just love, just this person I'd helped bring into the world, finally feeling safe enough to be real. When we finally pulled apart, Vivian wiped her eyes. So what now, she asked. Now we pray, like we always do. Really? Really? Because that's our thing. Tuesday and Thursday, 8 p.m. Although it's only 6:30, so Vivian laughed through her tears. You remembered the time. I always remember. We closed our eyes. I went first. Thank you for my daughter's courage, for her trusting me with her truth. Help me learn and grow and be the father she needs. Help us figure this out together. My daughter. The word still felt new. Strange. But right. Vivian's turn. Thank you for my dad, for him staying, for him loving me, even when he doesn't understand everything. You answered my prayer. You really did. We opened our eyes. The coffee shop felt different now, brighter somehow. Can I ask you something? I said. Anything. How long have you known that you're Vivian? Always, since I was little, but I didn't have words for it until a couple years ago. Then I just got more and more scared to tell anyone. I'm glad you told me. Me too. Even though I'm still terrified. Of what? Everything. What people will say. What happens at school. What this means for my life. I squeeze her hand. We'll handle it. One step at a time. You don't have to figure everything out tonight. What about mom, your other kids, everyone else? We'll tell them when you're ready. At your pace. This is your journey. I'm just here to support you. Vivian smiled. A real smile. The first genuine smile I'd seen from her in months. I feel lighter, she said. Like I've been carrying this huge weight, and I finally put it down. That's what truth does. It sets you free. We stayed at that coffee shop for 2 more hours. Talking. Planning. Sometimes crying. Sometimes laughing. It wasn't easy. There were hard questions. Difficult conversations ahead. But we were in it together. When we finally left, Vivian hugged me again in the parking lot. Dad, thank you for starting to pray with me. It saved my life, really. You saved mine too, Vivian. You taught me how to be present, how to listen, how to love better. I watched her get into her mom's car. Tomorrow, I need to have hard conversations. I need to learn about things I didn't understand. I need to grow and change and figure out how to support my daughter through something I'd never experienced. But tonight, sitting in my car in that parking lot, I just felt grateful. Grateful for prayer. Not because it connected me to God. I still wasn't sure about that, but because it connected me to my daughter. It built trust. It created space for truth. I started praying with my son to help him. But really, she was helping me, teaching me that love means showing up, listening, being present even when you don't understand, and accepting people for who they really are, not who you want them to be. That was the truth Xavier Vivian had been trying to tell me all along. And finally, I'd been ready to hear it. I didn't sleep much that night either, but this time it wasn't from worry. It was from thinking, processing, understanding what had just happened.
My child had trusted me with the truth. The real truth. The kind that takes courage most adults never find.
And I've been there for it. Not because I was perfect. Not because I had all the answers. But because for 4 months I'd shown up. Every Tuesday, every Thursday. I'd proved I could be trusted. That's what prayer had given us. Not miracles. Not divine intervention. Just consistency. Trust. Space for truth. I thought about how different things might have been if Xavier Vivian had told me this back in June. Back when I was sleeping on factory floors and missing calls and putting work before everything, I probably would have said the right words. I was smart enough to know what you're supposed to say. But would I have really been there? Would I have truly listened? Or would part of my mind have been on the next production meeting? The next crisis, the next problem to solve? Probably. No, definitely. The prayer practice changed me. It forced me to stop, to be still, to put down the armor I'd been wearing my whole life. The armor that said, you have to have all the answers, you can't show weakness, you can't admit when you're lost. Prayer taught me that not having answers was okay, that admitting you need help was strength, not weakness. That being present matters more than being perfect. The next morning, Friday, October 25th, I woke up early, I made coffee and sat on my back porch watching the sunrise. My phone buzzed. A text from Vivian. Did you mean what you said last night? I typed back immediately every word. You're my daughter. I love you. Nothing changes that. Even when people find out. Even when it gets hard. Especially then, we're in this together. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared, appeared again. Can we still do Tuesday and Thursday? Absolutely. Same time, same prayer ritual. That's ours. Thanks, Dad. I love you.
Love you too, Vivian.
I stared at that name on my phone. Vivian. It would take practice. I'd probably mess up sometimes. Call her the wrong name by accident. Use the wrong pronouns. But I'd keep trying. That's what mattered. Over the next few weeks, I started learning. Really learning. I read articles about transgender kids. I talked to doctors. I joined online forums for parents. Some of it was confusing. Some of it challenged everything I thought I knew. But I kept learning. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You grow. You change. You expand your understanding. At work, people noticed I was different. Again, in a Tesla leadership meeting in early November, one of the engineers made a mistake. A big one. Cost us 2 days of production. The old me would have exploded, would have made an example of him. Would have sent emails at midnight demanding explanations. Instead, I pulled him aside privately. What happened? I asked. He looked terrified. I miscalculated the tolerances. I'm sorry. I'll fix it. I know you will, but if I'm asking him what happened, are you okay? Is something going on? He blinks surprised. My dad's in the hospital. I've been distracted. That's an excuse, but it's not an excuse. It's a reason. Go be with your dad. We'll handle the production issue. But family first, always. The factory will still be here tomorrow. After he left, Gwen pulled me aside. Who are you? She asked, half joking. What do you mean? 6 months ago, you would have lost your mind over that mistake. Now you're sending him home to be with family? 6 months ago is different. What changed? I thought about how to answer. I learned that being present matters more than being perfect. That people are more important than production numbers. That sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you don't have all the answers. Gwen studied my face. This is about Xavier, isn't it? Yeah, you two have been spending more time together. Yeah, she taught me some things. I almost slipped. Almost used the wrong pronoun. Vivian wasn't ready for everyone to know yet. That was her choice, her timeline. Even that near mistake taught me something. Change is hard. Growth is uncomfortable. You mess up. You keep trying. That's all any of us can do. Tuesday and Thursday nights continued. Every week. No exceptions. So sometimes Vivian and I would talk about her transition. About what she needed. About her fears and hopes and dreams. Sometimes we wouldn't mention it at all. We'd just eat pizza and watch movies and be together. The prayer ritual evolved. We got simpler with it. Sometimes it was just thank you for this moment. That was enough. One Thursday in November, Vivian told me she wanted to start dressing differently, more feminine, that she was scared. What if people stare? She asked. They might. People stare at me all the time. You get used to it. But you're famous. I'm just me. You're not just anything. You're Vivian. You're brave. You're real. That's more impressive than anything I've ever built. She smiled. You really think so? I know so. I started praying more on my own, not just during our Tuesday, Thursday sessions, but throughout the day, before big meetings. Help me listen. Help me lead with compassion. When I was frustrated, give me patience. Help me see the bigger picture. And when I was tired, thank you for what I have. Help me remember what matters. It became like a mental reset button, a way to step outside my own racing thoughts and remember, you're not alone. You don't have to carry everything yourself. I still don't know if I believe in God. Not in the traditional sense. Maybe prayer is just talking to yourself. Maybe it's tapping into something bigger. Maybe it doesn't matter which. What matters is what it does. How it changes you. How it opens space for connection, for growth, for love. In December, Vivian told her mother, it was hard. There were tears, confusion, questions. But we got through it together. Then her siblings. Griffin, her twin brother, took it hardest. They'd been identical twins. Now they weren't. That was a loss for him. We had to make space for his feelings too. But slowly the family adjusted, learned new names, new pronouns, new ways of showing love. It wasn't perfect. We all messed up sometimes. But we kept trying. That's what family does. One Tuesday in late December, Vivian and I were sitting in my living room. We just finished praying. It was almost Christmas. Dad, she said. Yeah? Do you remember that night you called me back in June when I told you about my nightmares? I remember I was calling to say goodbye. My heart stopped. What? I was gonna run away. I couldn't handle hiding anymore, feeling invisible. I was gonna leave and just disappear. Tears were streaming down my face. Vivian, but you answered. You said we really talk, and then you showed up at Phil's coffee. And you kept showing up every Tuesday, every Thursday. You saved my life, Dad. Really. I pulled her into a hug. You saved mine too. You taught me how to be human again. How to stop and listen and be present. How to love without trying to fix everything. We sat there crying together, father and daughter, changed by prayer, by presence, by truth. Now, when people ask me what I believe in, I don't talk about God or religion or faith in the traditional sense. I talk about showing up, about being present, about creating space for people to be real. I still run Tesla, still lead SpaceX, still work toward making life multiplanetary. But I do it differently now, with more compassion, more patience, more understanding that people matter more than quarterly earnings or production targets. My team at Tesla says I'm easier to work with, less volatile, more human. My kids say I'm actually there now, present, listening. And Vivian, she's thriving, growing into herself, becoming the person she was always meant to be. We still pray together every Tuesday and Thursday, sometimes in person, sometimes on FaceTime when I'm traveling, but we never miss it. Because that ritual isn't about religion. It's about us, about connection, about saying, you matter, this matters, I'm here. People ask me, what's your secret? How do you run multiple companies and make time for family? The answer is simple. I stopped trying to do everything perfectly. I started focusing on what actually matters. And I learned that sometimes the most important discoveries aren't on Mars. They're in quiet moments with your child, in being brave enough to admit you don't have all the answers, in showing up even when it's hard. I started praying with my son to help him, but really she was helping me, teaching me that prayer isn't about asking a supernatural power to fix your problems. It's about being vulnerable enough to admit you have problems, to put your fears into words, to create space for truth and love and real connection. Teaching me that the hardest work isn't building rockets or electric cars, it's building relationships, being present, choosing love over fear. Teaching me that you can be brilliant and successful and change the world, but if you're not there for the people who need you, none of it matters. I still want to make humanity multiplanetary. That goal hasn't changed. But now I understand, before we can live on other planets, we need to learn how to really live on this one. To be present, to listen, to love without conditions. My daughter taught me that. And every Tuesday and Thursday, when we close our eyes and say our simple prayers, I'm reminded this is what matters, not production numbers or stock prices or Twitter followers.
Peace, connection,
Presence, truth, love. That's what prayer gave me. Not answers, but something better. The wisdom to stop pretending I had all the answers. The courage to be vulnerable. The strength to change. And the gift of really knowing my daughter, not the person I thought she was, not the person I wanted her to be, but the person she really is. That's the most important thing I've ever discovered. And it happened because I learned to be still, to listen, to pray. Not to God necessarily, but to the possibility of becoming a better father, a better person, a better human. One Tuesday at a time, one Thursday at a time, one moment of presence at a time. That's what it changed in me. Everything.